We interrupt this program to bring you
something completely different.
Hey guys, Kaz here. Hopefully the sound quality is better this time around. I'll really only have time to record this once, so fingers crossed. I know the first time around sounded a little weird, so please, let me know in the comments if it's better this time. By the way, if you make it to the end of this video, I'll be letting you in on a little behind the scenes secret that I'm working on with the guys. Anyways, I'm talking games again today, and some things I've noticed that could have a larger impact on media in general. Just know these are my observations. Kid and Ginger have not weighed in, so this doesn't reflect their opinions. Just mine. Not them. Me. These two no. This one yes. Okay, good? You with me? Alright, let's get to it. We'll start off with the state of games today. Gaming is broken, and there's many reasons. Some big, some small, some are just greed incarnate. But a lot of them can be fixed. AAA studios and publishers would have you believe these problems are just the way it is, and to do anything about it would drive away players. But my goal here is to show you just how wrong they are, how simple it really is, and what we're faced with if nothing is done about it. First up is the console wars. A little healthy competition can be great for everyone. It pushes devs to make better games for the consoles they want to distribute their games on, and it makes companies like Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo more likely to offer better services to the consumers. On the surface, it seems like gamers would benefit the most, but this hasn't been the case for quite some time. With online multiplayer and cross-platform releases taking over the market, it renders the console wars obsolete. Players would rather buy a console, buy a game, and play. But for groups that want to play together, they usually have to make sure everyone has the right console and the game for that console before they can play together. We're a great example of that. For a while, we've been talking about playing games like Minecraft for a stream or even a series on the channel. But to do that, we all have to have the same version of the game. It wasn't until recently that Sony released the Bedrock version of Minecraft on PS4. Before that, they had Java Edition. This meant that at least one of us would potentially have had to buy a second copy of a game that we already had, or even worse, the game and another console. Let's face it, people enjoy their hobbies and will even pay to continue them, but no one wants to spend their entire tax return just so they can share it with their friends and have to do it all over again a few years later. This brings me to exclusives. If you're a gamer on a tight budget like me, you can't really afford to buy every console on the market. You have to carefully consider which console you would buy. For me, it has to have the most games that I would actually want to play, offer an opportunity to play with friends and family, and not break the bank in the process. This really sucks for consumers. We're forced to buy more equipment if there's even one exclusive we want to play on a console we don't have. The problem's made even worse with the next gen. Take Sony for example. They will have some exclusives coming out for PS5 that you won't get with PS4. To counter this, they're making the PS5 backwards compatible with PS4 games. What they ignore is the fact that people would still have to have the money to buy that next console, and the games on top of that. Even if you sell the old console to buy a new one, it won't cover the cost. Anywhere you bring the system will lowball the cost so they can turn a profit on resale. Don't get me wrong, it's just business, but that doesn't make it suck any less. This is where I think Microsoft got it right. You're not forced to buy the Series X to play the new games. The solution to these problems is universal cross-platform games. The only ones who benefit from the current landscape are the companies behind the consoles. They raise profits by making people buy extra equipment that they really shouldn't need. If game devs and publishers would deny exclusivity deals, they would increase their profits by offering the games to a wider audience. I'm sure there are many reasons why you would want to sign these deals, but the gamers are the ones who pay the price. I mean, having people play their games is the reason they make them in the first place, right? It doesn't make sense to me that they would want to limit their reach and by extension, their profits. The next problem is the dreaded microtransaction. These are not as big a deal as people make them out to be. Unless, of course, we're talking about EA. The most common thing that's brought up to me is that it presents an unfair advantage to people who can afford them. This is only true if what the player is paying for is something that is other than a simple cosmetic and can't be bought using an in-game currency or mechanic. If it's not either of these, then what you're seeing is people basically paying to not play the game. And to that, I say point and laugh. I'm sorry, but if your goal is to buy a new game just so you can spend even more money to get it over with faster, or just wave your wallet in front of everyone else, then I don't have the time or the patience for you. Most microtransactions have a primary and secondary price. The primary is almost always an in-game currency of some kind that you gain by playing the game. And from what I've seen, not one of these items, skins, weapons, and so on are even required to complete or play the game. You're not forced to buy them. They're there for the people that want them. So as long as there are people that are willing to buy them, microtransactions just aren't going anywhere. Just because they're annoying doesn't mean they're evil or damaging to the overall experience. However, if there's something I'm missing, if there's something you know that I don't, leave a comment and we'll talk about it. Speaking of things that people hate, how about the early access games? Paying for a game before it's finished does seem kind of weird, and I understand how it can put people off, but I think this is really the best way for indie devs to release their games. Hold on, let me explain. Early access tends to be cheaper than waiting for the full release. It also gives the devs a way to get real-time feedback while the game is still being made. You find out what players like and dislike about your game, and from there you can make any adjustments you need to make sure players have the best experience possible. Not to mention the fact that a lot of the time these players get certain perks when the game is fully released. Just because some companies take advantage of the practice doesn't make it a bad idea. Just like with microtransactions, there will always be someone who takes advantage of a system and tries to scam people. It makes that person bad, not the system. Lastly, we have day one patches. Too often, we see games get released only to have major bulky patches come out shortly after, to put in the parts of the game that should have been there to begin with. The biggest offenders by far are the ones that push their releases to be during the holiday season or the release of a new console. This has to stop. What do you think pisses people off more? Not having a game on Christmas or not having the whole game that they paid for? The answer should be pretty obvious, right? If I'm paying for something, then I expect to be given what I paid for. Nothing more and nothing less. And I'm going to throw in companies that lock part of their game behind a paywall or DLC expansion as well. Legitimate expansions are fine. They're additions to the game. But if you take part of your game, cut it out, and decide to charge people extra for it, then f*** you. And it doesn't end there. When I said it could have an effect on media as a whole, this is what I'm talking about. Just look at Cats and Avengers Endgame. One had a re-release with updated special effects, and the other re-released with an extra scene at the end, which, turned out just to be a trailer for an upcoming movie. Both of these were done to artificially raise their box office gains, and in one case, it pushed their movie to have the highest box office in history. You think other studios won't take note of this? Because if you do, you're wrong. It works, and they've proven it. Look what happened with video games when Fortnite and PUBG came out. There was an explosion of battle royale games that flooded the market. It continues today. It's a trend, it's popular, and it works. All it takes is one case where a company does it and makes an impact. Others will follow, and they will do it in droves. They don't care how many times they make us pay for the same thing over and over again. These are just a few things that bug me. I could go on, but I doubt anyone wants to listen to me complain for a few hours. I do want to know what you guys think about all this. Did I miss stuff? Maybe you have a different opinion? Oh, and by the way, Daniel, I know I didn't get to your topic, but don't worry. I haven't forgotten. And hey, if you made it this far, I might as well tell you about that little secret. I've been talking to the guys about a little contest. The idea is, you guys will submit ideas of what you think I do or should look like. The winner will have their submissions be my permanent avatar for the channel, as well as have their name credited in every episode that I make an appearance. And another prize we haven't quite decided on yet. So if that sounds like something you might be interested in, this is your chance to get a leg up on the competition. I'll get you guys more details as I get them. But that's all I've got for now, so till next time, I'll shut up now.